World of Warcraft pulled me back in. Hook, line, and sinker. Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and I came back to World of Warcraft's latest expansion, The War Within, and I've been having an absolute blast. I've played the game since Cataclysm and left in Shadowlands, firmly believing that the game was just going in a direction that no longer particularly appealed to me. But the course correction World of Warcraft has seen over the last couple of expansions has not only been striking, but surprising to me, in all the right ways. But it's not a perfect game. World of Warcraft was never a perfect game. But where can it improve? How can it get better? And how can it continue to regain a lot of trust that was eroded over multiple expansions? Well, that's what I want to cover in this video. I talked about before why I think this modern World of Warcraft formula works and appeals to me. It's based on evergreen content that won't just be thrown away when we come to the new expansion. Storytelling is arguably better than it's ever been before. The aesthetic of World of Warcraft is squarely in a direction I'm far more comfortable with than where it was. And they've introduced numerous changes to gameplay that appeal to me. I love the concept of delves, and I love dragon riding. This is a workable formula, and a far better foundation to grow this game from here on out than where the game was for so long. But there are two key pillars that I think they really need to focus in on and execute to continue fostering goodwill and continue to grow and develop this game. Those two things, for me, are consistency and execution. Let's talk about consistency, because honestly, just keep doing what they're doing. Continue to tell stories to this caliber that you told in The War Within. Personally speaking, I've been enjoying every class that I've played. Now, I haven't played too many upon my return so far. I've played Retribution Paladin, Frost Death Knight, and now Shadow Priest, and I've thoroughly enjoyed all of these. But in terms of zone exploration, in terms of the scale of the world, in terms of the amount of open world content to do, I think the game is genuinely exciting, and they need to keep up this flow. They need to keep up this pace without compromising on quality, which did come into question with 11.05. And if you need to scale some things back or push the release schedule a week or two extra just to assure the player base that the game will be polished, then I think you should do that. But in the grand scheme of it all, I think this is a good pace of things. Bringing back Plunderstorm, the idea that we could be getting Legion Remix upon the end of The War Within, bringing back Horrific Visions, everything they've talked about when it comes to Undermined with 11.1. For the vast majority of things they talk about for the future of this game, I am rather optimistic and looking forward to. And then for Midnight, we have a new big thing with player housing. That's an excellent example of how can we add a great big new feature to this game that feels like it belongs but doesn't bloat the overall experience or inundate you with meaningless things to do. And I like the fact that a lot of what used to be mandatory chores have now been relegated to grinding renown for either gearing alts or for transmog and mounts and cosmetic stuff like that. But the reality of just how people work, goodwill is hard to foster, but it's easy to lose. And World of Warcraft lost a lot of goodwill leading up to Dragonflight and even into Dragonflight in regards to the storytelling. You won't recoup all of that goodwill overnight. It's just not going to happen. But I think what they're doing with The War Within is healthy, is sustainable, ideally. And if this is the future direction of World of Warcraft, I'm all for it. But you need to be able to sustain this. This pacing needs to be consistent. You need to keep up with this level of storytelling and this consistent level of excitement that I feel as a player in regards to what is being added to the game or being retooled and reintroduced to the game. I didn't play Plunderstorm when it first came out. I'm looking forward to playing it now. I loved Horrific Visions when they came out back in Battle for Azeroth, and without all those systems that BFA had that I disliked, I'm very much looking forward to how they can be implemented into the the war within. But this also leads into the other pillar, execution. What do I mean by this? There's a lot of things that have a ton of potential in the war within, but I don't think that execution necessarily hits the mark. I think the best example for this is Awakening the Machine. In concept, this is really cool, and I hope they don't abandon this idea wholesale, because having this essential round-based mode where the challenge just gets harder and harder, but the reward gets better and better the further you go in, that could be really dang cool. But what it amounts to in-game is rather lackluster and requiring basically no mental thought. I'm not joking or exaggerating when I'm saying this. I had a migraine doing my last run of the Awakening the Machine, and I still managed to clear on my fresh level 80. Granted, it was a Frost Death Knight, but still, I'm struggling to be able to even see the screen, and I still managed to overcome whatever they threw at me. Easy content has a place, but it still has to be engaging. And I liked Awakening the Machine the first time I did it because I saw the potential, but doing it over and over again, it feels too samey. It needs way more different combinations of enemies that it throws at you, possibly a toggleable hard mode, where instead of doing 20 waves, you just do 10, but they're all harder, for like the same rewards, but if you're good enough, then it would technically be quicker. Bit of risk reward, maybe allow myself to augment my power and give me additional benefits and power-ups, kind of like in Torghast a little bit. Speaking of, Torghast is an idea that has a ton of potential. They just absolutely dropped the ball in regards to making it mandatory for player power, and didn't lean into the roguelike elements enough. Don't be afraid to have fun with these systems and these side pieces of content. And if you want them to be easy, like I think they want Awakening the Machine to be easy, then let it be easy, but make it wacky and silly and just fun. Make it a power fantasy. You do it like once a week for a few minutes, whoop-de-doo, who cares? Let me feel absolutely insane in there. Maybe occasionally give me a bunch of those power-ups that are found in delves. You just give it to me one after the other when it comes to each new wave. So as the waves get stronger and harder, so do I. Not in that way. Mix up the different types of enemies that I could fight, mix up the different compositions that I could fight. Utilize some other mechanics from delves, like the grapple hook mechanic. That could be really good here for just traversal. And maybe it's only available in specific rounds. It could make these waves feel unique and interesting, and just freshen the experience up. It needs a bit of randomness behind it, both in terms of what you're facing, but also the powers you could gain while doing Awakening the Machine. And a lot of what I just talked about doesn't require anything new, just retooling things that already exist in other pieces of content, but helping them to serve in this piece of content, which could be a philosophical way of thinking that could extend to other elements of this game. Same thing with delves, right? One of the things I really like about delves is their inherent variety. You go into the same delve multiple times and they give you a bit of a twist. That's cool. That's a formula, it's an idea that should be implemented in things like Awakening the Machine. Variety is the spice of life and is so pivotal and important for an MMORPG because you'll be putting in so many hours and replaying these pieces of content so many different times. And if you do the same thing over and over and over again ad nauseum, it gets boring and repetitious. Like the Codex of Chromie for the 20-year anniversary. Like, conceptually, this should be way cooler than it actually is. You're going back in time to the Gates of Anchorage opening, trying to make sure the timeline is right. Why do all the objectives just boil down to zug down a few mobs, go to a new place, maybe you get the one-off event where you gotta do a goofy-ass emote? It's boring and mindless, and that's the type of content I think World of Warcraft needs to shy away from. And if you're going to have content that is that laughably easy, then lean into spectacle, lean into it being a unique and fun experience, instead of just, I can throw this keyboard off a balcony and still manage to somehow hit the correct keys to kill the mob. Because I think delves, for a lot of them, do a good job with this. Because yeah, if you're geared enough and you're doing rank 8 delves, yeah, they're really easy. On my paladin, I've already gotten past rank 8 delves in terms of what I'm able to do. They're no problem to me anymore. But there's still a good amount of variety and individual scenarios there for each delve that freshen up the experience. Now, if I do them repeatedly every week for the entire expansion, yeah, I'll probably get bored with them, but that's when you add new stuff, new delves, new gameplay mechanics, you freshen up the experience. I think the idea they have with having a whole host of content to do is good, but when it comes to things like Awakening the Machine or Codex of Chromie, too often does Blizzard shy away from doing really cool spectacle in lieu of just having it be a mindless zerg down of a bunch of mobs, because they want to make sure that everyone can pass this with relative ease. That's a fine goal, but I think it can serve as a disservice to interesting gameplay design. And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to you need to be good at consistency and execution. Because I like having the 20-year anniversary. I like the things that are being advertised for the future of the War Within. These things have a lot of potential. You need to nail the execution, though, and not just have it be the most surface-level thing ever. I think delves are a great example of them doing this right. Are they perfect? No. Are they easily one of my favorite things they've ever added to this game? Absolutely. They're fun to use and to play to break up the pace of leveling. If I don't feel like doing group content, I still want to play the game. I can run a rank 8 delve and try to go even higher. I like that. They're fun. They're varied. They're interesting. Sure, maybe a mythic geared player is not going to particularly struggle in them, but I don't think the entire game should be designed around that idea. Nor should it be designed around the lowest common denominator. And if they're able to keep up this consistency when it comes to the storytelling, when it comes to introducing these fun things to do and iterating on them in the future, and having these fun events, and they can get better at their execution. Hero talents are a great idea and a great concept. They can be very hit or miss, though. Fortunately for me, the classes and specs that I really want to play tend to have really good hero talents. Retribution Paladin, Death Knight, pick any of them. Shadow Priest. They're really cool and really fun. Not all of them work, though. And for people that want overall class skins, I still think that's something that can be done and probably should be done at some point in the future. Maybe not immediately, but hero talents are another system where it's like, I love the idea here. The execution was rather hit or miss. If you can shore that up in the future, then that's great. World of Warcraft is not a perfect game, but it's also never been a perfect game. But I think the direction that it's on currently is far more healthy and sustainable in the future, and they just need to sustain this. And they need to be better with execution from time to time, and lean a bit more into spectacle when it comes to some of these pieces of side content that is supposed to be really easy. If they do that, then I think we're good to go. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and help support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye, everybody, until we meet again.